Stop right there, boy. The harsh voice sliced through the evening air like a blade. Inside Palazzo Grande, Lagos's most exclusive restaurant, the wealthy devour their $800 meals with royal satisfaction. Crystal glasses clinked against imported china. Diamond watches sparkled under golden chandeliers. The elite laughed, completely oblivious to the horror unfolding outside their glass fortress. But beyond those gleaming doors, a different world existed. A world of cruelty. A world where an 8-year-old boy named Marcus fought for survival. His tiny frame shivered in tattered rags. Bare feet, stained with mud and blood, pressed against the cold concrete. His stomach screamed in agony. For 3 hours, Marcus had watched the feast inside. His hollow eyes tracked every bite of grilled chicken, every sip of wine, every morsel that could save his life. But there was a monster standing between him and survival. Victoria, the sharp-tongued waitress with ice in her veins. She had declared war on this starving child. "You disgusting rat," she had snarled earlier. "This place isn't for filthy street garbage like you." Her hatred burned deeper than hellfire. She would rather destroy food than let Marcus taste a single crumb. Tonight, she had a plan that would crush this boy's spirit forever. Marcus pressed his face against the glass, watching a businessman leave behind an untouched burger. Hope flickered in his desperate eyes. Maybe, just maybe, tonight would be different. But Victoria was already moving. Her predatory smile promised nothing but pain. The hunt was about to begin, and Marcus had no idea what was coming. Victoria's eyes locked onto Marcus like a hawk spotting prey. Her heels clicked menacingly across the marble floor. She had been waiting for this moment, waiting to destroy the hope in this child's eyes once and for all. Marcus crept forward, his heart pounding like thunder. The abandoned burger sat there like a golden treasure. His salvation, his chance to survive another night. But Victoria was faster. Lightning quick, she snatched the plate before his tiny fingers could reach it. "Looking for this," she sneered, holding it high above her head. Marcus's world crumbled. His knees buckled as hunger and despair collided in his chest. But Victoria wasn't finished. She marched outside, her smile twisted with pure malice. Then, right in front of Marcus, she hurled the entire meal into the trash. The burger splattered against the bin. The yogurt bottle cracked and leaked. Marcus's last hope died in that garbage can. "Please," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I haven't eaten in 4 days." Victoria laughed, a cold, heartless sound that cut through his soul. "Good," she spat. "Maybe you'll finally disappear." But Marcus was already moving toward the trash. Dignity meant nothing when death was knocking. He would dig through filth if it meant surviving. His small hands reached toward the bin. "Don't you dare!" Victoria's voice exploded. She grabbed his wrist with brutal force. Her nails dug into his skin. "You're nothing but a disease," she hissed. "And I'm the cure." Marcus pulled back, tears streaming down his dirt-covered cheeks. But something inside him refused to break. Something dangerous was awakening. A plan was forming in his desperate mind. Tonight, everything would change. Through the restaurant's gleaming windows, Marcus spotted her. A vision in an electric blue gown that shimmered under the lights. Isabella, 28 years old, breathtakingly beautiful, with wealth radiating from every diamond on her wrist. She sat alone, lost in her phone, completely unaware of the desperate eyes watching her. Before her lay a feast fit for kings. Untouched plates of exotic rice, grilled perfection, and gourmet salads. A bottle of wine worth more than most people earned in months. Marcus's mouth watered painfully. His stomach twisted into knots of agony. This was it, his final gamble. If she rejected him, he would have nothing left but death. But if she showed mercy, he waited like a soldier planning an assault. Victoria disappeared into the kitchen. The other staff were distracted. Now or never. Marcus summoned every ounce of courage in his broken body. He stepped barefoot onto the pristine white tiles. The temperature in the room plummeted. Conversations died mid-sentence. Elite diners gasped in horror. "Where did this creature come from?" a woman shrieked. "Security," another man bellowed. But Marcus didn't stop. His bare feet carried him forward like he was walking through fire. Every step was agony. Every breath was courage. He reached Isabella's table and did something that would shatter hearts. He knelt, a tiny boy, broken and trembling, kneeling before wealth and power. "Ma'am," he whispered. Isabella looked up from her phone. Time froze. What she saw would haunt her forever. A child, fragile as glass, shivering in rags. His eyes held oceans of pain. Then came the words that would change everything. Can I eat with you?" The restaurant held its breath. Victoria's footsteps thundered across the floor. "You little pest!" she screamed. But before she could reach him, Isabella raised one finger. A simple gesture, but it held the power of gods. "Stop!" Victoria froze mid-charge, confusion twisting her features. "Ma'am, he's contaminated," she hissed through gritted teeth. "He digs through trash like an animal. He'll infect you with his diseases." But Isabella wasn't listening to the poison. She was staring into Marcus's eyes. Memories crashed through her mind like a tsunami. Her own childhood on these same brutal streets. Nights spent shivering under cardboard, begging for burnt bread outside bakeries. The shame, the hunger, the rejection. She knew this pain intimately. "Bring another plate," Isabella said quietly. Victoria blinked rapidly. "Excuse me." "You heard me." Isabella's voice turned to steel. "Bring him the best meal you have. Make it better than mine. And make it fast." The entire restaurant erupted in whispers. Shock waves rippled through the crowd. Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Really?" he breathed. Isabella smiled, and it was like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Marcus," he answered, barely audible. "That's a beautiful name," she said warmly. "Come sit with me, Marcus." But Victoria wasn't finished. Her face twisted with rage. "This is absolutely disgusting," she announced to the room. "A billionaire eating with street trash. This is a disgrace to everything we stand for." The words hung in the air like poison gas. Isabella slowly turned toward Victoria. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. When Isabella spoke, her voice carried the power of thunder. "One more word about this child, and I promise you something." She leaned forward, her eyes blazing. "I will destroy your life. I'll make sure every restaurant, every hotel, every business in the city knows exactly who you are. You'll never work again." Victoria's face drained of color. "Now get in that kitchen and serve him like royalty. Bring him orange juice in your finest glass. Treat him like the son of a king." Victoria stood paralyzed, her world crashing down. But the real shock was yet to come. What Isabella would do next would set the entire city on fire. Victoria stumbled backward like she'd been struck by lightning. Her face burned with humiliation as every eye in the restaurant bore into her soul. She had never been challenged like this, never been threatened by someone with real power. Terror crept up her spine as she realized who she was dealing with. Isabella wasn't just wealthy. She was connected, powerful beyond imagination. One phone call from her could end careers, destroy lives, obliterate futures. I'll get the plate," Victoria stammered, her voice cracking. She fled toward the kitchen like a wounded animal. But the damage was already spreading. A woman at a nearby table couldn't contain her disgust. "This is absolutely revolting," she muttered loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Eating with a street beggar. What's next? Inviting rats to dinner?" Her words sliced through the air like poisoned arrows. Isabella heard every syllable. She stood up slowly, her presence commanding the entire room. When she spoke, her voice carried the force of thunder. "You're all staring," she announced. Every conversation died. Every fork stopped midair. "Let me ask you something," Isabella continued. "Why should an 8-year-old boy sit outside every single night, hoping for scraps, while we throw away more food than he sees in a month?" The silence was deafening. Guilt crashed over the crowd like a tidal wave. Marcus reached for his spoon with trembling hands. The plate before him looked like a miracle. Golden rice, perfectly grilled chicken, fresh vegetables that smelled like heaven. He took his first bite, and tears exploded down his cheeks. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice shattered with emotion. "I thought nobody cared about me anymore." Isabella felt her heart breaking and healing simultaneously. But the night was far from over. Something much bigger was about to unfold. Marcus devoured the food like it might vanish at any second. His tiny hands shook as he scooped rice into his mouth. Too fast, too desperate. Suddenly, he choked. His eyes watered as coughing racked his small body. "Slow down, sweetheart," Isabella said gently. She pushed a glass of water toward him. "There's plenty more where that came from. If you finish this plate, I'll order another." Victoria returned with the orange juice, her spirit completely broken. She poured it silently, her hands trembling. No more cruel words. No more superiority. Just shame. Marcus drank the juice like liquid gold. When he offered some to Isabella, her heart nearly exploded. "Don't you want any?" he asked innocently. "Today is your day, my love," she replied. As Isabella watched him eat, memories flooded back. Cold nights under cardboard boxes, digging through bakery trash for burnt crusts, the endless hunger, the constant rejection, the pain that never left. Then Marcus said something that changed everything. "My mama used to make food like this." Isabella's breath caught. But then she went to heaven. The words hit like a sledgehammer. "What about your father?" Isabella asked softly. Marcus looked down at his plate. The pain in his eyes deepened. "He left me," Marcus whispered. "He said I was trouble, that I was a disturbance. So he threw me on the streets like garbage." Tears streamed down Isabella's face. She couldn't hold back anymore. She stood up and wrapped her arms around Marcus, pulled him close to her chest, held him like the child she never had. "You'll never have to beg again," she promised. "From today, you're mine." Marcus looked up with eyes full of disbelief. "You mean you're not sending me away?" "Never," Isabella said firmly. "You're coming home with me." But their beautiful moment was about to be shattered. A voice boomed from across the restaurant. The manager had arrived, and he was furious. The restaurant manager stormed across the dining room like a man possessed. His face was purple with rage. His eyes locked onto Marcus with pure hatred. "Who is this disgusting, filthy, stinking creature?" he bellowed. "How did this street rat get into my establishment?" The entire restaurant went dead silent. Isabella's head snapped up. Fire blazed in her eyes. "Hold it right there," she said, her voice cutting like a sword. She stood up slowly, her presence filling the room. "Don't you dare call him that. He is not disgusting. He is not filthy. He is a child, and his name is Marcus." The manager scoffed. "I don't care what his name is," he spat. "He doesn't belong here. This is a place for civilized people, not street vermin." Isabella's eyes narrowed dangerously. "He's 8 years old," she said slowly. "He's been surviving on these streets alone, while we sit here ordering $800 meals and throwing half of it away." She turned to face the entire restaurant. "Look around you," she commanded. "Every single one of you has wasted more food tonight than this child has seen in weeks." Heads dropped in shame. The wealthy diners couldn't meet her gaze. Even Victoria stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. The manager's face twisted with fury. "I don't care about your bleeding heart speech," he snarled. "This boy is bad for business. He needs to leave now, or I'm calling security." Isabella smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone about to unleash hell. "Do you know who I am?" she asked quietly. The manager hesitated. Something in her tone sent ice through his veins. "I'm Isabella Blackstone," she said. The name hit the room like a bomb. Gasps echoed from every table. The manager's face went white as snow. Isabella Blackstone, owner of the largest hotel chain in West Africa. Billionaire. Philanthropist. One of the most powerful women in the country. "This restaurant," Isabella continued calmly, "sits on property I own." The manager's knees nearly buckled. "Your lease comes up for renewal next month." She leaned closer. "Guess what just changed?" The manager collapsed into a chair like his strings had been cut. His empire was crumbling before his eyes. "Mrs. Blackstone," he stammered. I didn't know. Please, let me explain." But Isabella had already turned away. She knelt beside Marcus and took his hands. "Are you ready to go home?" she asked gently. Marcus couldn't speak. He nodded through his tears. As they stood to leave, something magical happened. One by one, the wealthy diners began to stand. Not in protest, in respect. A billionaire at the corner table approached them. "I'd like to support what you're doing," he said. He handed Isabella an envelope. "For the boy." Inside was $10,000. Another woman stepped forward, then another. Soon, a line had formed. Everyone wanted to contribute to Marcus's future. The same people who had judged him minutes before were now opening their hearts. Victoria pushed through the crowd. Her face was streaked with tears. "Mrs. Blackstone," she whispered, "I'm so sorry. I was cruel to him. I threw away his food. I called him terrible names." Isabella looked at her for a long moment. "The boy you tormented," she said quietly, "might have been me 20 years ago." Victoria's sobs intensified. "How can I make this right?" she begged. Isabella considered this. "There are other children like Marcus on these streets," she said. "If you really want to help, find them. Bring them food. Show them the kindness you should have shown him." Victoria nodded frantically. "I will," she promised. "Every single day." As Isabella and Marcus walked toward the door, the entire restaurant erupted in applause. The manager rushed after them. "Mrs. Blackstone, please," he pleaded. "The lease." Isabella paused at the door. "Turn this place into something that helps children like Marcus," she said. "Then we'll talk." Outside, Isabella opened her car door. Marcus climbed in, still unable to believe this was real. As they drove into the night, Marcus asked the question that had been burning inside him. "Why did you save me?" Isabella smiled through her tears. "Because 20 years ago I was you." But their story was just beginning. What happened next would shock the entire world. As they drove through the glittering streets of Lagos, Isabella's mansion loomed ahead like a palace. But Marcus wasn't looking at the luxury. He was staring at Isabella with confusion in his eyes. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "you said you were like me. But you're rich. You have everything." Isabella's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Her jaw clenched as memories she buried for decades came flooding back. 22 years ago," she began, her voice barely a whisper. "I was 8 years old, just like you, living on the streets of Lagos, begging for scraps." Marcus's eyes widened. "My mother died from disease," Isabella continued. "My father, he was a drunk who sold everything we had. Then he disappeared, leaving me with nothing." The car pulled into her circular driveway. But Isabella didn't move to get out. "I slept in alleys," she said. "I dug through garbage bins for food. I was beaten, spat on, chased away from restaurants. Just like you." Marcus felt tears building in his eyes. "But how did you become this?" He gestured at the mansion. Isabella's smile was sad. "One night, I was dying," she said. "Starving and sick behind a hospital. A doctor found me. Dr. Samuel Blackstone. He took me in, fed me, adopted me, gave me his name." Marcus absorbed this in stunned silence. "He taught me that when you've been saved from darkness," Isabella said, "you have a responsibility to pull others out of that same darkness." She turned to face him. "That's why I saved you, Marcus. Because someone once saved me." But as they sat in that driveway, neither of them could predict the earth-shattering revelation that was coming. A revelation that would change everything they thought they knew. Isabella led Marcus through her mansion's marble halls. His bare feet padded silently across floors worth more than most people's houses. Every room was a masterpiece. Crystal chandeliers, golden fixtures, art worth millions. "This will be your room," Isabella said, opening a door. Marcus gasped. The bedroom was bigger than most apartments. A king-size bed with silk sheets, a flat-screen TV, a balcony overlooking the garden. "Mine," he whispered. "All yours," Isabella smiled. But as Marcus explored his new room, his eyes landed on something that made his blood freeze. On the nightstand sat a small, framed photograph. A photograph that should have been impossible. His hands shook as he picked it up. "Isabella," he called, his voice trembling. She rushed over. "What is it, sweetheart?" Marcus held up the photo. It showed a young woman holding a baby. The woman was beautiful, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Where did you get this?" Marcus asked. Isabella looked confused. "That's a photo of my adoptive father's first wife," she said. "She died in childbirth. He kept her picture to remember her." "But why do you ask?" Marcus's legs gave out. He collapsed onto the bed, clutching the photograph. Tears poured down his face. "This is my mother," he whispered. The room went dead silent. Isabella felt the world spinning around her. "That's impossible," she breathed. "Marcus, that woman died 20 years ago. She never had children." Marcus looked up at her with tears streaming. My mother's name was Grace, he said. Grace Emmanuel. She used to sing to me every night before bed. She told me stories about angels. Isabella's face went white as snow. Show me, she whispered. Marcus began to sing softly. The same lullaby Grace used to sing. The same lullaby Isabella remembered Dr. Blackstone humming when he thought no one was listening. The same lullaby he said his wife used to sing. She told me she had another baby once, Marcus continued, but she had to give her away because she was too sick to take care of her. Isabella's legs buckled. She grabbed the dresser for support. She said that baby was adopted by a good doctor. She said that baby became successful and happy. The photograph slipped from Isabella's trembling hands. She stared at Marcus with dawning horror and wonder. Marcus, she whispered, what was your mother's maiden name? Blackstone, he said quietly. Grace Blackstone. The room exploded in silence. They weren't just strangers brought together by fate. They were brother and sister. And neither of them had known. Isabella sank to her knees on the marble floor. Her entire world had just imploded. We're family, she whispered. Marcus stared at her through his tears. You're my sister, he asked, his voice barely audible. 20 years. 20 years they had lived in the same city. She in a mansion, he on the streets. Brother and sister, separated by fate and circumstance. Isabella's mind raced through the pieces. Dr. Blackstone had told her his wife died in childbirth. But he never said the baby died too. He must have been forced to give Marcus away. Maybe Grace was too sick. Maybe there were complications. Maybe he thought Marcus was better off with his biological father. Marcus, Isabella said, crawling toward him. I searched for family my entire life. I hired investigators. I spent millions trying to find anyone connected to me. And you were here all along. She pulled him into her arms. Suffering alone while I lived in luxury. They held each other and cried. 20 years of separation. 20 years of pain. But now they had found each other. I'll never let you go, Isabella promised. Never again. We're going to change the world together. As they embraced, Isabella made a silent vow. This wasn't just about saving one child. This was about saving every child like them. Every Marcus still living on the streets. Every Isabella waiting to be found. Tomorrow, she said, we start a foundation. The Grace Emmanuel Foundation. For street children. For families torn apart by poverty. For everyone the world has forgotten. Marcus looked up at his sister. What do we do first? He asked. Isabella smiled through her tears. We go back to that restaurant. And we change everything. But what they discovered when they returned would be more shocking than anything that came before. The restaurant held one final secret. A secret that would shake Lagos to its core. 3 days later, Isabella and Marcus returned to Palazzo Grande. The restaurant looked different. Empty tables, dim lights, a closed sign hung on the door. But Vittoria was waiting for them outside. Her face was pale with terror. Mrs. Blackstone, she said, rushing toward them. Thank God you're here. Something terrible has happened. Isabella frowned. What's wrong? Victoria's hands shook as she pulled out her phone. After you left that night, I did what you asked. I went looking for other street children. I found them. Dozens of them. But Mrs. Blackstone. Her voice cracked. They all told me the same story. Marcus stepped closer. What story? Victoria showed them her phone. Photos of children. Street children. Boys and girls between 6 and 12 years old. All with the same haunting eyes. All with the same desperate hunger. They all said they used to live somewhere safe, Victoria whispered. A children's home. But 6 months ago, something happened. Isabella's blood ran cold. What kind of children's home? Victoria's next words shattered the world. The Blackstone Children's Home. The one Dr. Samuel Blackstone built before he died. The one that was supposed to take care of kids forever. Isabella grabbed Victoria's arm. That's impossible, she breathed. I've been sending money to that home every month for 5 years. Millions of dollars. Victoria shook her head sadly. Mrs. Blackstone, the home burned down 6 months ago. All the children were thrown onto the streets. The director took all the money and disappeared. Marcus felt the ground spinning beneath him. Marcus, Victoria continued, you lived there once. For 2 years after your father abandoned you. Until the fire, Isabella's world exploded. Her foundation money, millions of dollars meant to help children, all stolen. All the children she thought she was saving, all living on the streets like Marcus. How many? Isabella asked quietly. Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. 200 children, Mrs. Blackstone. 200 Marcuses. All of them homeless because of the corruption in your name. Isabella looked at Marcus, then at Victoria, then at the closed restaurant. A smile slowly spread across her face. Not a happy smile. A dangerous smile. Victoria, she said calmly, how would you like to help me burn down a system? How would you like to help me save 200 children and destroy everyone who stole from them? Marcus looked up at his sister. What are we going to do? Isabella's eyes blazed with righteous fury. We're going to start a war. A war against every corrupt official, every fake charity, every system that fails children. And we're going to win. She knelt down and took Marcus's hands. By this time next year, there won't be a single child sleeping on the streets of Lagos. I promise you that, even if I have to buy the entire city to do it. As they walked away from the restaurant, Victoria asked the question burning in everyone's mind. Mrs. Blackstone, how are you going to find all those children? Isabella smiled. Simple. We're going to do exactly what brought Marcus and me together. We're going to feed them. Every single one. And when they come to eat, they'll find a family. The camera panned out as they drove into the Lagos sunset. 200 children were about to discover that their nightmare was ending. Their real lives were about to begin. All because one woman remembered what it felt like to be forgotten and refused to let it happen again. What did you think of this incredible true story of family, redemption, and hope? Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that changed someone's life forever? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that will restore your faith in humanity.